France, the land of wine, art, beautiful architecture, and apartments that can feel like the inside of a freshly baked baguette. During a summer heat wave, visitors often ask one question: where is the air conditioning? And the answer is complicated. Because France does have air conditioning. It's just far less common than many visitors expect, and historically, French homes were built to survive summer without it. For much of modern French history, air conditioning seemed unnecessary. French summers could be hot, but long periods of extreme heat were less common. If the hottest weather lasted only a few weeks, installing an expensive cooling system for the entire home could feel like buying a snowplow for one snowy afternoon. Instead, people relied on a different technology. It was called closing the shutters. Shutters blocked sunlight. Thick walls absorbed heat slowly. Windows opened at night. And during the hottest part of the afternoon, you stayed indoors and questioned every life decision that had brought you to the top floor. France also has a housing challenge that is difficult to solve with a quick trip to the hardware store. Many buildings are old, sometimes very old. Installing modern air conditioning may require outdoor equipment, new electrical work, pipes, drainage, and holes through walls. That becomes complicated when the wall is older than several countries. In apartment buildings, residents may also need approval for exterior equipment. And in protected historic areas, preserving the appearance of a building can limit what can be installed. So adding AC is not always buy machine, enjoy cold air. Sometimes it's more like buy machine, ask permission, review the building, find a contractor, discover the wall is 200 years old. There is another issue. Many homes were designed around keeping warm in winter, not surviving increasingly intense summer heat. Some older stone buildings stay relatively cool because their thick walls have a lot of thermal mass. But other homes, especially upper-floor apartments beneath dark roofs, can become heat traps. And when the heat lasts for days, the building itself stores warmth. At night, instead of cooling down, the apartment may simply say, "Tomorrow, perhaps." Air conditioning developed differently on opposite sides of the Atlantic. In the United States, central air became deeply connected to modern housing, comfort, and suburban life. In France, cooling was often treated as something temporary. Open the windows, close the shutters, use a fan, and wait for evening. Air conditioning could be viewed as expensive, unnecessary, or environmentally wasteful, especially if it was used to cool an entire building for only a short period each year. Critics also point out that air conditioners consume electricity and release heat outdoors. If electricity is generated using fossil fuels, cooling indoors can contribute to warming outside, which is a slightly awkward arrangement. It's not quite that simple, but the concern has shaped the debate. Now, an important correction. France does not have no air conditioning. Air conditioning is common in many hotels, offices, stores, newer buildings, and parts of southern France. And it is becoming more common in homes. Recent estimates have placed residential access roughly in the range of 1 household in 5 to 1 household in 4, depending on the survey and the type of cooling counted. But having air conditioning does not always mean cooling the entire home. Many households cool only one room, and often use the system mainly during the hottest days. Welcome to the French summer strategy. One cool room, everyone inside. The old system worked better when extreme heat was unusual, but France is getting hotter, and heat waves are becoming more frequent and more intense. That is changing the national conversation. Air conditioning is no longer only about comfort. It is increasingly discussed as a public health issue, especially for older adults, hospitals, schools, care homes, and people living in poorly adapted buildings. At the same time, many experts argue that AC should not be the only answer. Better insulation, exterior shading, reflective roofs, trees, ventilation, and buildings designed to stay cool can reduce overheating before an air conditioner has to switch on. The future may not be air conditioning everywhere. It may be cooler buildings and smarter cooling. So why does France have less air conditioning than countries like the United States? Because its climate used to make AC feel optional. Because its buildings are old and difficult to retrofit. Because shutters, shade, thick walls, and nighttime ventilation were the traditional solution. Because cooling has been shaped by cost, culture, architecture, and environmental concerns. And because France is now discovering that a strategy designed for yesterday's summers may not be enough for tomorrow's. So yes, France has air conditioning, just not always where you desperately need it.